All right, welcome back. This is Steve Adamco, the owner and founder of Spectrum Interiors located in Portage, Michigan. We're going to pick up where we left off in the talk about the relationship of walls to furnishings. So like I said in the first part, we're going to pick up here with balancing a color scheme. So here we go on balancing a color scheme. On certain occasions, a room is purposely decorated to give a warm or a cold atmosphere, as when a cold north bedroom is decorated warmly, or an excessively hot south room is given a cool atmosphere by decorative treatment. Also, some rooms, like a game room, for example, are planned to have a very active, lively color scheme, while a library or schoolroom calls for quiet, subdued, restful treatment. The average room, however, needs a decorative plan which is well balanced between warm and cold tones, active and passive design. Neither too warm and stimulating or too cool and chilly, nor so neutral and drab as to be cheerless and uninteresting, just as it is in the case with Builder Beige. Gosh, we've sure seen enough of that, haven't we? I don't know why people don't get tired of that. Seeing that over and over, that blandness. Anyway, this balance of harmony and atmosphere is gained by the judicious and expert handling of pattern, texture, or design on walls. Skills in the use of bright, intense colors, warm and cool colors, grade and neutral tints and shades, and more specifically, by skill in creating contrasts of value that are neither too high nor too low. Contrast of color hue and contrast of color intensity. So you can see there is a lot to all of this. Great care should be taken to avoid having extreme contrast by all three methods: hue, value, and intensity. At the same time, self-tones and related colors may be fairly strong in contrast of value if they are grayed or neutralized without being too stimulating to the eye. Now, let me just say something here, too, in case you've been wondering. Hue is the name of the color, like yellow, blue, red. Value is how dark or light it is, compared to a grayscale that ranges from white to black. Okay, so you got white, then you have, like, say, medium gray, and then black. So you've got dark, medium tone, light tone, really light tone. And then intensity is how intense the color is. Like when you look at a color circle, red is intense. But you can diminish that to what? Burgundy. That's not nearly as intense. That's not like Ferrari red, okay? So those are the three attributes of color. When we're defining color, that's what we have to use. So we have the hue of the color, the value, how dark or light it is, and then its intensity, how bright or brilliant or strong it is, versus soft. Okay, so strong versus soft is like intensity. Hopefully that helps you out a little bit here so you can relate to these terms when I'm using them. Comfort and a sense of well-being in people results from balance, just like in the health realm. How we react to temperature and to light and dark indicates comfort, balance, or lack of them. Color may put us at ease in comfort or throw a person completely off balance. If there is a lack of harmony or too large an area of strong, brilliant color, such color can tire the eyes, as do also weak, washed-out colors. The sense of balance seems to come from near the grays in the color scale. In the area of strong color, the balance of a color scheme also depends. We like strong colors, but in small amounts. A comparatively small spot of bright red, yellow, or blue will balance a great area of gray and other dull, harmonizing color tints and shades. So bright colors only excite and also fatigue the eye when used in large areas. And of course, the general principle requiring a gradation of color from floor to ceiling should exist, and likewise should not be lost sight of. In the majority cases, walls ought to be lighter in tone than the floor. The ceiling ought to be lighter in tone than the wall. This is a contrast of values. The contrast should not be great, just a pleasing gradation from the bottom up, as in nature, with its black or dark colored earth to its light blue sky. So here you can take a lot of clues from nature. Dark colors on top or in the middle just naturally throw a color scheme out of balance. Dark colors appear heavy, as do also bright colors in certain combinations with light tints. And the laws of gravity place weight at the bottom. That is, then, in nature, the agreeable or the natural and pleasing arrangement that you find outdoors. Okay, now we're going to be going into color schemes for various rooms. Now, as in all cases, these are general rules, okay? But rules, if you know what you're doing, are made to be broken. And so it can vary quite a bit depending on the circumstance and the place and the uniqueness of the environment. Color schemes for the living room. The living room, as the name suggests, has almost forever been the place where most of the family life is spent, where friends and visitors are entertained. It should be created with an atmosphere of comfort, relaxation, and quiet refinement. Extraordinary or novel effects in this room might entertain or amuse the guests, but they are sure to become tiresome to the family. Decoration like this doesn't sustain interest well and is likely to be too stimulating to associate with 7 days a week. A conventional and conservative expression of good taste and decoration is more fitting in the living room. The selection of a color scheme for a room where there is one invariable element, or maybe a couple of elements that have to be dealt with, where the furniture or a rug has already been selected, then the color scheme has to proceed from that rug or furniture. In other words, the keynote color of the room must be that of the rug or furniture, related to or complementary to them. This keynote color may, of course, contrast with the rug or furniture in color, hue, and in value using lighter tints or darker shades. Now, when we say keynote, that does have kind of a reference to music. You know, somebody says, well, we're going to sing this in the key of C, the key of A. So just consider it that way, the keynote. Or like somebody says, a keynote speech. You know, you go to a convention or something like that, and the keynote speaker, okay? It's the big idea that drives the rest of it. So the character of the room coloring may be either warm or cool in general atmosphere, even when starting from a fixed element of color like furniture and rugs, which are apt to be of warm tones most of the time. Otherwise, the color scheme can be either receding or advancing in character depending on the size and shape of the room. This keynote color may, of course, contrast with the rug or furniture in color, hue, and in value, using lighter tints or darker shades. The character of the room coloring may be made either warm or cool in general atmosphere, even when starting from a fixed element of color like furniture and rugs, which are most apt to be of warm tones. Likewise, the color scheme can be either receding or advancing in character, depending on the size and shape of the room. For the purpose of illustration, let's assume that we have a new living room without color, except the natural new colors of walls, wood trim, and floor. The first consideration is the size and shape of the room. Is it too small, and does it require giving an apparently increased size to the room? Is it a large room in which a wide range of choice in colors, textures, and designs can be implemented? Are the ceilings quite high, affording an opportunity to use fairly dark colors, or are they low, requiring very light colors? Is the room quite ornate architecturally, or is it plain and simple? Is there a large amount of wood trim, or is it of a type which has no door or window casings? Are the walls occupied largely with built-in furniture, resulting in comparatively small wall area? Are the wall surfaces continuous, or are they broken up by trim, by wood paneling, or by paneling with moldings? When you have made a study of the room, and have a clear idea of its character. In answer to these questions, the next step in making a color scheme plan is to decide on a keynote color. Is the general color atmosphere to be very light, moderately light, or quite dark? Is the color feeling of the room to be warm, cool, or simply neutral? What are the color preferences of the people who are to occupy the room? These should be considered, but should not be allowed to dominate the color scheme unless they coincide with other elements involved. What is the character of the light? Is the room flooded with sunlight? Is it moderately light? Or is artificial light dependent upon most of the time? Until a person is experienced in the selection of color schemes, the safest method to pursue as the first step is to choose one keynote color and then follow the principle of harmony by using self-tones, lighter tints, and darker shades of that color for the surfaces of the largest area, which are the walls, the floor, and ceiling. Then to this related colors can be added in a limited way to gain additional harmony by the principle of analogy. And as one becomes more skilled, complementary colors, which are in perfect contrast with the keynote color, may be used in grade tones and in small areas. The accomplishment sought in working with these principles of color harmony should be to construct a color scheme which is rather subdued, low in tone, and quietly harmonious. This refers not only to the colors and textures for walls, floor, ceiling, and trim, but also to the selection of furniture, rugs, pictures, and usually the window treatments. Now remember, this is a general situation that maybe most people can relate to. And hopefully it's not the builder beige, but we're trying to keep this simple at this point. Special care should be exercised to avoid the use of large and fairly large areas of white, such as glaringly white drapery treatments and table covers. The use of rather large white mats on pictures is especially a glaring weakness of many interior color schemes because they give the effect of a hole in the wall. There is little reason to have a mat on many pictures. But when a mat is used, it should be very subdued in color, should be self-toned with the dominating color of the picture frame, or it should be covered with a fabric which will tone in with the picture, the frame, and the wall. The general color scheme of a room may be good, and yet if a comparatively large area of white in drapery and window treatments, picture mats, or table covers are present, they are acting like a discord in the harmony because they attract too much attention to themselves. These furnishings should be of a color hue as will harmonize with the general keynote color of the room as a soft tint or shade, as a related color, or as a very much grayed complementary color. Now, coming back to the picture mats, there's nothing wrong with having a picture mat because sometimes you want to create a larger piece than what the actual artwork is in terms of size. But you've got to be very careful that you don't overdo it, or whether there's a particular or special reason for using a mat or a large mat. Okay, so again, these are general comments. The whole color atmosphere of a room should be so quietly harmonious up to this point that when a stranger steps into the room for the first time, no single element will draw attention to itself immediately. The general atmosphere should be comparable to a chord of music in its harmony. In other words, your contrast of color values, light tints, and dark shades of the key color, related colors, and complementary colors in grade areas should constitute one harmonious whole. Having accomplished this much, there remains one more element to direct in completing the plan for the color scheme. This is to introduce a climax around which the whole harmony revolves. This climax may be composed of a small area of bright color or complementary colors, and it may take one of several forms. The climax may be a brightly colored vase full of flowers on a mantel, on a bookcase, or on a table in the living room. It may be a brilliant vase and flowers on a small table before a mirror in the reception hall, in which the mirror table and the vase are grouped to form a pleasing symphony of color and form. This climax or feature of special interest in a room may be a bit of statuary in bright or white colors. It may be a rich table cover, or it may be a picture of brilliant hue of one or more colors. In other words, the charm of a room results largely from directing the attention of one entering the room to one tastefully constructed group or element in that room. The same principle applies to the bedroom, with a vase of flowers displayed on a dresser before a mirror, or with its beautiful dominant picture. The climax of the dining room is the completely decorated and furnished table, with the meal spread ready for guests. In a library, the climax feature may be the brightly colored book bindings, or it may be a beautiful picture in bright colors, and if neither of these, it may be a bit of statuary or a vase on the desk. At times, the climax or center of interest is the window draperies, but it is much better to subdue these in favor of some other feature of interest in the room. There is often good reason for using brightly colored draperies, and this can still be done if the colors are subdued or of a grayed character. They may be bright and yet subdued with over-draperies to avoid competition for attention with the real climax of the room. This is the end of part 2, and we'll take up in part 3 with more specific information relative to the dining room on the relationship of walls to furnishings.